did too. That may not be fair.
Okay, let's get started before the pizza comes, then we'll take a little bit of a break. My presentation, as I was introduced, is of course about smart meters. And most of us, I think, get into going around speaking when it's really not our forte or in our comfort level, because we finally get so moved by what we are seeing. I consider myself basically a politically aware person, but not ever a political activist. I don't even know if you would call this political, but in any case, I went to, my sister got me sucked in. Imagine that. About a year ago, she hosted a symposium, so I thought I'll just go to support her. And in the symposium, one of the things that was featured was the smart meters. So I'm like, that is unbelievable. And I couldn't wait to get home, where I live in Columbia, Missouri, to just confirm that I didn't have one, because that wouldn't happen in Columbia. Well, much to my horror, I did have a smart meter. And I was extremely fortunate, because I went ahead and started going directly to the city building and saying that I was here to pay my bill. And she's like, okay, we can go ahead and take your money. So long story short, they're like, why are you asking us all these questions? Nobody's ever come in and asked any of these questions. So, I couldn't, the person couldn't answer the basic questions, who was kind of like one of the field guys. So then they took me to the supervisor, and they ultimately took me to the director of our water and light department. And finally, within 10 days, I got a true analog meter. And I guess they kind of figured I sort of knew what I was talking about, which I didn't. I just knew kind of the right questions to ask. And so they just thought, well, let's just go ahead and give her this analog meter. Well, and I didn't know either that I was going to really start, pounding the pavement and educating people and making people aware of this fact and see what they would do. So I'll tell you kind of the end of the story and what's been happening over the last 10 months, because I started going to city council. You feel like you're wasting your time, and you sit there till 12:30 in the morning listening to them so you can have your 3 minutes to speak and everything like that. Gone around the state talking. I've even gone, because we talk about all these things not really being on any political, side of the aisle. This is where we have to really talk to people that we didn't think would listen to us, because this is about our freedom. And so one of the ways that I started getting my message across is to get into sort of maybe people who were more environmentalists and stuff like that, who wouldn't necessarily listen to something that I would have to say. I set up an Earth Day booth. And that was an ability to be able to tap into people who are very interested in this topic once they hear the side of it. So let me just start off by asking, how many of you even know what the smart grid or the smart meter is? I think we have a pretty informed group. So really though, half of you, right? Is that what I'm getting? About half of you. Okay, so let me just define very boring, but it's very essential about what a smart meter is. A smart meter is any meter with electronic components, or it can be battery operated. It is capable of measuring, recording, and sending your data from a customer to the public utility in a manner that is using one-way or two-way communication. This is a smart meter. Now what happens is the utility company tries to use their public relations to confuse this issue, and they're going to say, when you say, I don't want my smart meter, they're going to like, you don't have a smart meter. We've had these meters on your house since 2005 or 2002. They're going to call it solid state. They're going to call it advanced. They're going to say it's one way, so you don't have to worry about it. The fact of the matter is, and I've got some brochures back there. The brochures I have back there actually use this very definition. And I would suggest that you all get one of those brochures. Some of it has some very specific information, especially on the back about Columbia City Council. But the general information is good, because you need to know the definition of this and make your own brochures and start telling your neighbors and friends about this. And you can copy exactly what I have, or as you learn, you can create your own special brochure to start informing people. So use that as a resource. Now, what the utility companies are going to tell you is that the perks of these are to be able to fire your meter readers. So we're talking lots of jobs. So they're talking about streamlining. It is to be able to shut off the customer's electricity remotely, so they don't have to make field visits. And another thing that you're going to hear a lot is just a wonderful way for them to collect data. Now, does that sound like anything that's really good for you? It's super great for a company, right? Super great for them to make their life a little bit easier. 1 in 3 households have smart meters. And by the year 2015, that number is going to almost double. So if you think you don't have a smart meter, you probably have one. And if you don't have one yet, you will be getting one.
How can you tell if it's a smart meter now?
So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm going to say this website a couple of times so you get it. And there's also some contact information, the little pieces of paper that have my contact information on it. And it also has 3 very important websites to continue to learn about this topic and this issue. But there's one website that I do not have on there, and I've been researching this for the last year. It is one of the best, and it's called Smart Meter Education Network.com. And I will repeat that again, smartmetereducationnetwork.com, all one word. Now, the reason why I like this website, this is out of an activist group out of Michigan, and it is so well laid out, and on the sidebar, they have Smart Meter 101, how do you tell if you have one? So I'll just give you a little example of some different pictures of what some smart meters are. And in my presentation, I'll talk about it a little bit more, but just so you can kind of have a visual of what we're talking about here. Basically, it's this one. This is the one that was on my house that I got off in 10 days. Okay, so most of them look like this. The manufacturers are anywhere from Itron to Landis-Gyr to Siemens. So in any case.
Kelly, do they have to notify you when they're going to?
No, they do not.
You had no clue it's being swapped out?
Right. So what happened to when I was kind of talking to the meter reader who came out and replaced me, I'm like, how did this get on in my house? How do you guys do this? And it's called a deployment for a reason, because they want to get out as many as they can as fast as they can without interruption. So what they do is they come out during the day when most of us are out working so we can pay our taxes, and they knock on your door. And if you're not home, well, they're just going to go on and upgrade or update your utility meter. If you are home, all they're going to tell you, and this is what he told me, he says, we're here at your door. We just want to let you know we're here to, upgrade or fix your meter. So you might have a little disruption in power. So if you're working on your computer or something, just go ahead and save that document. It'll just be you may not even have any instruction, but if you do, go ahead and do this as a precaution. That's how it happens.
What kind of a meter do I want if I call in and ask?
The only thing you want to accept, and that's in that brochure too, is a pure electromechanical analog meter. Electromechanical analog meter. It works on the natural electronic magnetic fields of the earth. It is not digital, it does not profile you, it is not a surveillance device, and it does not emit radio frequency radiation.
It is pure
Mechanical analog meter. And it is on that brochure with you. There's a brochure back there that has pictures of an analog meter and a smart meter. And it tells exactly what you want. Okay, there is what's called a smart grid system, and you're going to see or hear a dizzying array of acronyms that the utility company is going to use. So not to be confused. So the two-way smart meters, two-way communication smart meters, is AMI, which stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure. That enables the two-way communication. It's a remote shut-off. And ultimately, and not even ultimately, it controls your appliances. It controls the signature load, the power load, all that kind of stuff on their appliances. The next one, which is the one I had on my house, which they say, it's not a smart meter, don't worry about it. We don't even have it in Columbia, is what they were telling us. This is called AMR or ERT. This is the one-way meter, but it is still wireless, so it communicates through radio frequency radiation. And then what happens is, when I was talking to my meter reader and said that I wanted mine off, and they says, well, what are you worried about? Yeah, are you worried about the health issues? And I'm like, no. I mean, should I be? And they're like, no, you don't have to worry about the health issues. And I'm like, okay, well, I still want my analog back. And they go, oh, well, you worried about the privacy issues? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really. And they're like, okay, well, in case you were, you don't have to worry about it because this is only one-way communication. We can't remotely shut anything off, so you don't have to worry about the privacy issues. So I'm like, okay, if it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, I want my analog back. So like I said, that got, yes.
There's a town just this side of Kansas City, north of the highway, that uses their power grid for their internet for the whole town.
Oh, really?
And it's
Yeah.
transmitted over the power line.
Yeah. Well, so now what happens is they're going to tell you, well, they're only going to come in once a month to get the data off the meter, so you don't have to worry about the radio frequency radiation that it puts out. It doesn't put any more out than a cell phone. Well, when you think about what happens with the ERT and these ITRON meters, or most any of these ERT meters, it's called ERT, they are only very myopically talking about the transmission of data when their handheld device comes into your neighborhood once a month. So logically you think, well, of course, that's silly, I'm not going to make a big deal about that. But what these meters do is they're constantly sending out the message to the receiver, waiting for it to come into the neighborhood. So imagine if you were going to your mailbox every minute of every day to check your mail. But that one time that you go throughout the day, you're actually going to retrieve your mail. That's exactly what these meters do. So every minute of every day, several times a second, it is sending out this message, very nervously waiting for this device to come in and pick up your data. This is called a bubble up mode. Another thing that you have to think about is, this is a chart of a utility company in California, and they actually did testing on these meters. And so the meters would actually start transmitting up to about 6 times in a 24-hour period. But like I said, this is a whole mesh network. It's a part of the smart grid. So there's relays, there's routers, and there's other meters in your neighborhood. And it is doing all kinds of network management, time syncing, and the mesh network messaging that's going on. And that can happen literally up to 240,000 times a day. All the meanwhile, you're getting pulsed with this radio frequency radiation to get this done for them. Then I'm going to go back here. Another way for them to transmit the data is through power line communication. That actually uses the power lines to transmit through the wire. But what this does, it creates dirty electricity, which is the harmonics on the wiring of your home. So the power lines have 240 volts. It has to step down to the smart meter using a switch mode power supply. That's a device it's called, to go down to 4 to 10 volts. And every time it's doing that, it's sending this harmonics on the wiring of your home, which creates dirty electricity. It creates sometimes worse, or at least at best, the same kind of damage that radio frequency radiation does, and we'll touch on what kind of damage that does to your health even without you knowing it. And then here's a visual of what that looks like, so you can see the pulse of dirty electricity. This is a nice smooth wave here that's going on with a 60 cycle electricity that comes off the wiring. But when it creates dirty electricity in this pulse wiring, it creates this rugged, spiky electricity that's going through the wiring of your home. The radio frequency radiation does that too. It's like a jackhammer going off on your cells, and it's affecting you, and I'll talk about the health damage.
What's the purpose of that? No?
Of what?
So they can doing that? By the electric, by the power?
Because that's the way the mesh network works, is that you have, it's either through wireless or dirty electricity, because they can't take the 240 volts off of the wire, and they have to use a switch mode power supply. So they don't really care what it's doing to your environment, it's achieving the goal of them getting the data out of your home.
I think the root of her question is, sounds like it's part of Al Gore's carbon footprint that he wants everybody to have.
It's the inventory and monitoring and control of what we're doing, and we'll talk about the privacy issue and how they're wanting to ultimately control our energy usage. What are our concerns? Our concerns are the cost. The smart grid and the smart meter infrastructure is very expensive. There's the health issues. Smart meters emit radio frequency radiation through wireless communication. Those that are not wireless, like the PLC and the digital meters, they still emit, they create the dirty electricity in your wiring of your homes. There's a privacy issue. Smart meters are like a wiretap on your home. It's collecting information about your personal daily habits and safety. Smart meters are not UL approved and have been known to start fires. What is the smart grid? I have this movie, Take Back Your Power. It's a documentary. I know we're getting deluged with so we were all trying to stay aware. So I'm not even saying for you, because you're going to hear this presentation, that you need to watch this movie. But I want you to know that this is a resource. This is a documentary about the smart grid and smart meter. It was created by a director, Josh Del Sol. He was out of Canada. He kind of has this counterpart called Josh Smart, and he lives here in the United States. He's out of California, and they are forging and creating amazing awareness with regards to smart grid and smart meter through this movie. It has won at least 3 awards. One was a humanitarian award, and one was a transformational film of the year award. It's called Take Back Your Power.
What is that?
Josh Del Sol, D-E-L-S-O-L. And I also have some back there for sale if you do want to go ahead and grab one. Now the smart grid is about the modernization of our electric grid, and the smart grid is essentially a computerized system that works wirelessly, and it's capable of monitoring and controlling our energy use from the plant source. Now, the smart grid reality is that cyber attacks are a growing danger for our national security. So we know that all wireless communication can be hacked. James Woosley, who was the former CIA director, says that the smart grid, such as ours, is a really, really stupid grid. And we've touched on this before, is that we already know that alternative forms of energy are not going to be able to scale up fast enough to meet our needs the way we consume energy in our country. And I went in to see Clara McCaskill, because she was in our town, the city council, so I kind of wanted to hear what she said. And she actually said that we will not be able to run our country on renewables. And they're trying to sell this to us because we want to go to alternative energies. But everybody's admitting, and that quote that I have right here, that because alternative forms of energy can't scale up fast enough, that was actually from a group of scientists who believe in global warming. And I think this is really interesting. Have you guys ever seen these signs along the highway? Cooperative Action Network, Action, it's for your cooperative, co-op.com, or .coop. They talk about wanting to make your voice being heard. You know why they want you to help them? Fight the EPA to make them stop implementing costly new regulations, because what they want to do is provide you affordable energy. So I started using this. I went in and I supported it. I signed and said, I don't want you guys to have to follow all these regulations. But you know what? This is cloud that you can use and leverage. You can use. If you want us to support you from the onerous regulations of the EPA, then why don't you help us too with regards to this privacy invasion with regards to this assault on our health, the radio frequency radiation. So this is something that you guys can
So
really.
this is there, because when I read this is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I saw
But
it.
if we're gonna help them
Yes.
from the government and their regulations, then they need to help us and listen to what we have to say. Here's a picture of the global smart grid map, when we're talking about regionalism, eliminating all borders and everything like that. Yes?
Do you think, you were talking about the co-ops, do you think that any of these people, the energy companies, the co-ops, the smart meter, do you think they really understand the agenda?
No.
Do you think they're dupes riding along with them?
Yeah, this is what
I
I,
think so,
cause, usually when I go to these, meetings and stuff like that, the co-ops are usually there, listening to me and making statements and stuff like that. This is the two things that I believe. First of all, nobody wants to really take issue with their employer. They want to get a paycheck and they want to keep their pension. So they are gonna do what their employer wants them to do when they want to be a good employee. They don't want to get written up, right? And the second thing is just like you, even I would consider you guys very well informed. Only half of you know about smart meter, smart grid. These people, all they've heard about is the indoctrination of how wonderful this smart meter is. They can streamline their employees. They don't have to go out into the field to shut off power.
They're saving the
And another-
customer money.
They're saving customer, and another thing that they're saying they do is it helps them identify where the power outages are.
That's exactly right.
How many of you pick up the phone and let them know? Do they even need that? It's like, they're probably gonna get a phone call faster than they look at the chart that says that the power's out. So anyway, the smart grid is to eliminate all the borders, and it's gonna tie in Canada and Mexico. Electricity will be nationalized, and Americans must use less so that the poor in Mexico can have their fair share. Now, and I'm kind of repeating myself because Amy spoke in front of me, but imagine no air conditioning. Morris Strong, who is Sustainable Secretary General, said that air conditioning is not sustainable. So they're nudging you right now. You know, get the idea that you really shouldn't be using air conditioning to waste. Smart grid reality, the PR spin is that the smart meter will save you energy and increase home automation. Smart home, smartphone. I'm telling you, when you hear the word smart anymore, it's smart for the company, it's smart for the government, it is not smart for you. Take heed. And smart meters measure your energy. It's people who actually save it. I think we know how to turn down our own air conditioners and turn off our own lights. Smart meters and smart appliances run 24/7. There is not an on-off switch. So you're going to hear the utility company tell you, why are you worried? Do you have a cell phone? Well, the fact of the matter is there's something called a duty cycle. And on your cell phone, there's an on-off button. And the more things that you learn about a cell phone, you decide that you can modify your usage of it, you can turn your phone off, or you can decide, you know what, the heck with this, I'm done using these phones anymore. When you have these smart meters on your home and you get these smart appliances in your home, there is no on-off switch. They emit radio frequency radiation 24/7, and they're collecting your data the whole time. Because this is all such an expensive infrastructure, we're footing the bill, because most of these, I'll get to that. Okay, so in contrast to the way smart meters work versus analog meters, and here's your electromechanical analog meters, they use such a small amount of energy, only relying on the magnetic fields of electricity to spin. Whereas the whole entire wireless grid, smart grid and smart meters are using energy constantly. Kelly? Yeah.
Once again, when I was at Parkway about 8 or 10 years, it was all going back. they told us that they were going to put all these schools, now there are, I don't know, 50, 35 something different schools in the Parkway District. We were all on this grid and we were all going to be able to control the temperature climate in our, the temperature in our rooms, right? Okay, we got these things, we could control up 2 or 3 and down 2 or 3.
Right.
So I found, we had these, where I was one of the original buildings, we had this old, I don't know what you call it, contraption, like heater, air conditioning thing. And I found out that if I could get one of those, oh God, I don't know the names of these things, but it has like a hexagon, had like 6 or 8 sides, and I could plug it, and one of the teachers, it's an Allen wrench with all the different sides on it. But anyway, I could plug into the contraption, this thing was, I could turn the fan on, because we were dying in that class, it was so hot. And I couldn't go down any further. And then I get in big trouble for turning on the fan. But I didn't care because,
You were hot.
well, and my kids couldn't learn anything.
Right, that's right.
But they started that, this has been going on years, I never even realized it until I came here.
Probably a pilot program. Negative consequences outweigh the benefits. Why smart meters might be a dumb idea. This was an article out of the Consumer Digest report. It says that the smart meter conversion represents little more than a boondoggle that is being foisted by politically influential companies who are actually going to profit from the sale of this hardware and software. The cost to taxpayers via subsidies paid by the government, those additional fees on monthly electric bills to cover the electric company's cost of installing these meters. And it's not just the meters on our house. Again, there's relays, routers, computer software, and data storage. Now, in 2009, there was the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. So how this all happened was that there was money, stimulus money, given to the utility companies to incentivize them to invest in the smart grid. Started off being $3.4 million and later went up to $11 billion. There are pilot programs in Missouri, and there's actually a report called the Missouri Smart Grid Report. See if you guys recognize any of these. There's pilot programs in Fulton. This money is given from the Department of Energy. It was given to Fulton. It was given to Ameren, Kansas City Power and Light, White River Valley, Como, Laclede, and Black River. Now, even though your utility company wasn't listed on this, they are all integrating with one another to do this. They just happen to not get some of the stimulus money or part of the pilot program. Now, the interesting thing is about the money that is given by the Department of Energy only usually covers half of the expense. So they get them on board, but it doesn't complete the project, so. Yes, right.
That's the same with the bike lanes.
Yeah, because you have to maintain them. Once you get the bike lanes, then you still have to maintain them. So you don't even get the infrastructure in before you start paying out, and then you have to maintain
And
them.
the windmills.
And the windmills.
Like health cases if they want to push out.
Yeah, exactly. It's to bankrupt us.
Yeah.
Kelly,
Yes,
that not only is electric but gas meters too, correct?
yes, there are gas meters out there. I
I
have
just
not,
was approached by the gas company to change your schedule to be changed.
No.
I said, really? I said, it's not on my schedule, so we can change it. So I was gone a few days and I left a note on there, and so the note was taken because he was en route to do his thing around the particular area. And he took my note, I'm sure he took it back to his boss who had given him the assignment.
yeah.
I'll put
But
another
the-
note there tonight.
Yeah, and I
next
have
week.
some, I do also have some, labels back there, tags that you can put on them.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll get a collection of them, I may need them. I need more.
Now, they're gonna go to, different pricing choices. Wait a minute. Yeah, so, what's gonna happen is because they're collecting this, time of when you're using your energy, we're gonna go into different pricing structures of how they're gonna charge your energy. So, there's, what we're seeing across the country is that in Texas and Oklahoma, if you're using during peak hours, and we're finding out that peak hours is anywhere from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. when we're pretty much up working, right? Trying to get our stuff done, they can be 10 times higher than regular rates. You can just see in Washington, they're 15% higher. Then there's gonna be, critical peak pricing, and eventually, you're gonna be charged real-time pricing.
I mean, they're gonna turn the thing off.
Well, eventually they will not.
That's why they
not
want
the whole
those meters
thing.
on.
They will
Turn you
actually
off.
control your, I don't know if any of you already have that. You probably, got the incentive of having the,
Thermostat.
air conditioner put on, or a monitor put on your air conditioner, so that during the summer hours, during the peak hours, the utility company could remotely control and change your energy.
That's the first thing I want to be. Let them control my air conditioner?
People do it all the time.
Why?
They,
Because it saves them.
it
Well,
saves
they're
them
going
money, and they
When-
get a rebate from it.
Oh, that's the incentive.
Yeah, it's the money,
You know,
it's the
I want to
rebate.
control the temperature in my home.
And like even in Columbia, like if you build a new house, the water company will give you a free water heater. They put the monitor on your water heater and they control it. And people fall for this all the time, and essentially this is what's gonna happen with the smart meter. I'm kinda getting ahead of myself, but yes, the smart appliances that we have in our house will communicate with the smart meter. That information is sent to the utility company, and at the plant source, they will actually be controlling your energy usage. Now, as we get further into this to protect the brownouts and blackouts, they will literally disable your appliances if they see fit.
Now, do you have to have like the Energy Star or a smart appliance?
No, I'll get to that too.
How do
Yeah,
they
I'll
know
answer more
what
questions.
is using my electricity?
Well, we'll talk about that. So, now, okay, here's about the hoax I'm gonna talk about. There's negative consequences definitely outweigh the benefits as we're beginning to realize. They're alleging that we're gonna be saving energy. Again, it's only collecting and monitoring our energy usage. We're the ones saving it. Now, there's this Energy Star hoax that's going on. So we have some Energy Star appliances. Well, to get those appliances, you have Energy Star manufacturers lobbying to get the Energy Star sticker on their appliances. So out of the EPA presentation, you can see right here down at the bottom, it's an EPA presentation. And if you take a look at the Energy Star kilowatt usage per year of the appliances, and you look over to Energy Star with smart grid capability, it actually uses more kilowatts than the one that's not grid ready. And the reason why they can do that is because it has the potential of saving if it's tied into the smart grid. So you're paying extra money, and a lot of things is because these smart appliances cost more money. Again, through our taxpayer dollars, people are being incentivized to buy, and they are getting rebates to keep this product up. And there are at least 3 attorney generals that have said, we're not doing it. It's too expensive. The costs are not justifiable. Connecticut, Illinois, Michigan.
Illinois?
Illinois, can you believe that?
Well, they're making a profit, that's the problem. The energy companies are making a profit, that's the problem. That's
That's
why
the problem,
Illinois
yeah.
doesn't like it.
Yeah, and that's what Illinois said, is there's no benefit to the consumers. They're just so the utility companies know how to make a profit.
So profit is evil there, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you can't have a smart grid if you don't have a smart meter. Smart meter started in the Energy Act of 2005. Do we need to stop for a pizza? Yeah.
So could you just like, as far as the whole monitoring and all that, could you just unplug it, like if you're not doing the wash, unplug it?
No. I'll talk about that. It's radio frequency radiation. You cannot turn it off. So you're thinking that if you turn it, if you unplug it and take out of the energy source, then it's good. We are talking about radio frequency chips in these meters. This is called the Internet of Things, and I'll go through that so you can kind of conceptually get this idea. It's wireless communication.
You're
Just
talking
like when
about,
you're walking around using your phone, you don't have to have it plugged in to use it. That's That's wireless communication. This is how these Internet of Things, all this appliances in your homes will communicate with each other, send the data to the smart meter wirelessly, and that data will be sent wirelessly to the utility company. And it goes through the utility company via the poles and the routers and the relayers that are all over. All you have to do is look up at the lighting in your telephone poles and you will see antennas everywhere. You don't even have to look for the big cell towers anymore.
Weren't you talking about unplugging maybe your refrigerator?
Yeah, just unplug my washer and unplug my dryer.
No, because like I said, if you're taking it from the energy source, that you won't be able to use your appliance for the purpose that you bought it for, but it's still going to be able to send that information because it's communicating wirelessly. You can't use the washing machine to wash your clothes, but it's still communicating data to the utility company. The kind of communication, the kind of data it's sending is when you've used it, how old it is, what brand it is, what kind of load it's using from your home. All that is being collected.
A 20-year-old refrigerator is sending money, sending
Not your
collection.
Okay, so let me tell you about this. Kind of getting off track a little bit, but I got this week. There's a lady that lives in Kansas City. She's a Kansas City Power and Light customer. She got a phone call from Ameren. She doesn't have a smart appliance, but she got a phone call from them and said that her refrigerator is using $100 worth of energy, wasting $100 worth of energy a year. And they will give her $50 rebate to have her refrigerator replaced. How do they know that? Because she has, without even looking, obviously has the two-way communication smart meter.
Call it energy audit.
Well, usually on energy audits, you invite them into your home.
Yeah.
They, you see what I'm saying? Okay, so, the smart meter planning in the United States is based on the Energy Act of 2005. It was called time-based metering. This was supposed to be offered to the customer, and if they wanted to be more aware, more conscious about what kind of energy they were using, they would request a meter, time-based metering. Only that they would be offered, not that they would be foisted on us, and that's how this deployment happened, and that wasn't going on, people weren't buying into it, so the government says, okay, we're gonna do our part, we're gonna create some stimulus money, and you go deploy these. Don't even ask them, and don't tell them. No, I would say 95% of the people that I talk to have no idea what a smart meter is, and that it's on their home, it's affecting their lives, and they have no idea what a smart grid is. Do we want a break before I go on?
They got a couple more things to do, so it's gonna catch you at 12:30, right on, like,
5 more minutes,
yeah.
okay. Okay, now here's a picture of the digital meter. This is a smart meter. In Columbia, we have Itrons, yeah, we got 5 of them. The smart meters were promoted by the power companies and the government as a way for consumers to control their energy and to monitor it. The reality is, it's a way for the utility company to police our energy usage. Now, I'm just giving you an example. My utility company or co-op isn't even Ameren, but I'm going to just give you an idea. This is verbatim out of letters, quotes out of their letters. They're saying they're currently determining which customers will receive advanced meters. So I'm saying you're going to probably be getting these kind of letters. Don't really read them. They're letting you know that they're coming out. This is when they're going to be coming in. And if you do not remove your implied consent, because they just told you they're going to do this, if you don't remove your implied consent, you're going to get picked to have one put on you and never know it. And then they said, they're modernizing it, and how many people will be getting them. And they're going for the straight two-way automatic AMI, two-way communication. Oh. Let's start off with one of my big things is the health concern. I like to be in control of my health. as much as I can. Maybe some people don't care about GMOs, maybe some people don't care about organic. I research that kind of stuff, I get interested in those kind of things, and that's my prerogative whether I want to spend my money or my time or go to special grocery stores to find the kind of food that I want to put in my body. That's my choice. And this is my choice how I want my energy usage that I'm willing to pay for and pay for on time, how I want that to be collected. Now this is a health hazard. Smart meters emit radio frequency radiation. The FCC standards are ubiquitously quoted by the utility companies that we do not exceed the FCC limits. These were based on short-term thermal, meaning raising the body temperature, effects on a healthy, young, adult male. And that FCC limit was set for only one source of radio frequency radiation.
Is there a place to put dessert?
There is no FCC limit that is set for chronic non-thermal. Chronic meaning ongoing and non-thermal, not raising the tissue. That is the kind of energy that smart meters put out, chronic non-thermal. And as we continue to further comply with this program, this is just the beginning of the program. So you go out there and you say, you know what, I'm not worried about the smart meter. It's on the opposite side of my house where my garage is. Don't forget about the dirty electricity, because that's going to go through all the wiring of your house. But let's just say, you know what, I'm just not going to take that fight on. I don't want to deal with that. That's the beginning of the program, because smart homes, smart appliances, they are going to let the lifespan, like for right now in Columbia, they've already said they are blending the infrastructure they've already built and put in with these smart meters. This is the ERT, the one-way communication. When this lifespan of this meter is gone, they will go to the AMI. That's going to be the two-way communication, and that's where the smart appliances will communicate with the meter. Now those smart appliances, also a minimum of probably 15 other appliances in your home emitting non-thermal chronic exposure to radio frequency radiation. Now you guys are probably thinking, I have no idea what non-thermal chronic radiation is and how that could ever affect me. Well, I had no idea either until I started doing research. And I got so far into this that I decided to make the invisible visible with this radio frequency meter. I started seeing this stuff on YouTube and I thought, oh, those are cool. I gotta have one of those. What is that? I didn't even know what it was. But in any case, this is a powerful tool to help people understand what they are doing to their health.
And you made that?
Oh no, I wish I could have made it. You said YouTube. And the World Health Organization has classified radio frequency radiation as a class 2B carcinogen. That is the same category as lead and DDT. Have you ever heard any of this research?
No.
There is over 6,000 scientific studies that prove and show the damages of radio frequency radiation.
Can you repeat that back, the World Health Organization?
The World Health Organization has classified radio frequency radiation as a class 2B carcinogen. And there's a board that says health damages, and that quote's back there too. So if you kind of need some of the things that I'm saying to be reiterated, I have a health board, I have a privacy board, and since you guys aren't, I don't know, environmentalists, I don't have my environmental board out, but I can pull it out if you want. You ready for them to bring? Okay.
Ready to go.
Lunch is here, and then
What we're gonna do, guys, is just to expedite things is, left side, make a line for cheese, middle is, wait a minute, sausage, I think? Yeah, sausage, and then right is pepperoni. So if you want to just line up, know what you got, and if you have a mix, we got
And
those
there's
stuff.
salad in the,
Oh, yeah, there's salad here and rolls.
City, when I started bringing this up, their actual quote was, since the city is currently doesn't have smart meters, we have not researched the operating frequencies of smart meters. Now, mind you, when they said this, somebody from the Columbia Water and Light was saying they do have smart meters. And then 2 months later, the person that made this quote says, oh yeah, Columbia does have smart meters. So they will talk out of both sides of their mouth. And some people I think literally that are representing the utility company or the co-op are talking out of ignorance. And some of them literally, those higher up, are lying to you. And another thing, I'll tell you how little they know, and I'm not an electrician, like I said, all I am is a mom, a personal trainer, and Pilates instructor. I do have a business degree, but, you know, I know nothing about electricity until I started reading all about this. When and this is one thing that I kicked off my activism with, is I held a screening of this movie, Take Back Your Power. So I just got on radio stations and sent emails and just started talking to people, say, hey, come watch this movie. And I ended up having about 30 people show up. And the very first screening I had one of the co-ops show up, 3 employees. And we had a question and answer. The question and answers are fascinating. You won't believe they take on a life of their own. So in the question and answer, one of the employees, one of the head guys of customer relations was there, and he says, we have measured the frequency, the magnetic field of smart meters, and they are not harmful, and they only put out no more than electromagnetic fields of the earth. And there's a woman there who's electromagnetic sensitive. It's called electrohypersensitivity. It's an actual diagnosis. And she had to quit her job and everything like that because she was around this wireless technology and couldn't work anymore. She had to quit her job, she had to move out of her home, and so on and so forth. So she started learning about radio frequency radiation, and she started walking around with the meter. And she goes, sir, can I ask you a question? And she goes, did you just say that you measured the radio frequency radiation from a smart meter with a Gauss meter? And he says, yes, that's what we did. And he goes, sir, Gauss meters measure electromagnetic fields. What we're interested in is radio frequency radiation that smart meters put out. He goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. And I mean, the room went ballistic. So there's an example of ignorance where they're saying, don't worry about it, we measured it, but they're using the wrong device for the wrong thing that we are concerned about. So that just kind of emboldened me to think, you know what? These are the guys that are supposed to be the experts telling us everything's okay, and we knew more than they did. And I had just been involved in this by that time only 3 months.
Are you gonna talk about that?
Yeah. Okay, and where I talked about that the FCC limits were only set for fire damage and electrical shock, and it's only up to one source. There are many places that you will see as you start looking at these meters that this is called a bank of smart meters. People who live in apartment buildings, literally their bedroom could be on the other side of this wall, and they are getting radiation exposure from countless, that many meters. And then we talked about how there's this radio frequency spider web that's going to be developing in your home as you get these smart homes, home automation, smart appliances, and you can see the many sources of them from our computers, from our wireless routers, from the smart meter itself, the electrical cars, so on and so forth. And somebody was talking about the solar panels. There you have it. And then on top of it, because we talked about the mesh network, like I say, if you look up in the lights in your neighborhood or the telephone poles, you are going to start seeing the little antennas with the relays and routers in them. So these smart meters utilize this mesh network, which has no centralized antennas, and every antenna in the network can connect in a 1 to 2 mile distance. So this information moves around from one meter to the other. So each meter on the home is helping to move the data to the collector meter in your neighborhood. Wow. And the collector meter in your neighborhood is on somebody's home, and because it is the busiest meter, because it's the collector meter, is emitting more radio frequency radiation, and it's doing more pinging and time syncing and everything else than any of the others.
What's
And
the
they're,
effect of that?
and we're gonna talk about that, that health
That's
concern.
on somebody's home.
It's on somebody's
Do
home.
they know?
Be on your own?
Did you know you even have a smart meter on your house? They're definitely not gonna tell you if you have a collector meter on your house. The health concerns. There are both neurological and biological effects to radio frequency radiation. The damaging health results can be dizziness, insomnia, blood pressure fluctuations, ear ringing, behavioral issues, reproductive issues, cancer, and this is huge. Can have interference with people who have metal implants, pacemakers, and cochlear ear implants. So when you go to the airport, do they say, do you have any metal devices in your body? Do you have a pacemaker? And they shut down the machine that you go through for security, and they do the wand, right? They are putting these devices on your home, and this could potentially be life-threatening for somebody who has a pacemaker in their house. 13% of the population will be immediately affected by smart meters. These are people who are electric hypersensitive. So they are feeling the things that we can't necessarily see. And even though we are not feeling them, it is affecting us. And I'll talk about some of the effects that it's having. One of the ways that you can really tell that it affects people, there was this one woman who had like a 9 or 10-year-old son, and she he had diabetes, and she had his blood sugar under control for quite some time, for a year or two, and then all of a sudden, she had to end up taking him to the doctor because his blood was spiking, his levels were spiking, and they put him on more medication to kind of even him out. And then she started talking to a friend about it, and her friend says, well, do you have a smart meter on your house? And of course, she was oblivious to it, had no idea, did the investigation, found out she did have a smart meter on her house. Had it replaced, and literally within 2 months, that child was back to the medication he had before that smart meter was put on his house. So, and like sometimes you'll think, okay, you're feeling really tired, you're nauseous, it caused heart arrhythmia. You don't even realize that this is affecting you, and it is. And you might want to consider the wireless technology that is in your home, and that comes from your cell phones, it comes from your wireless router, and it comes from smart meters and any smart appliances that you will potentially already have brought into your home. To further drive this home, these are different organizations that have already said that these have harmful effects. World Health Organization, again, has classified it as a Class 2B carcinogen, the same as lead and DTT, chlorophyll, so on and so forth. The American Academy of Pediatrics has asked for more research to be done on the effects of radio frequency radiation, because children are really susceptible to this. They have thinner brain thinner skulls, and they have more fluid in their brain, so it's very damaging to fetuses and to small children because this radio frequency radiation can penetrate deeper into their brain. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine, this is a group of doctors that deal with people who have negative effects of environmental issues like chemical sensitivities, radio frequency radiation. They have had so much increase in people being affected by radio frequency radiation, they decided to do a case study on smart meters. And they said that the evidence is irrefutable. This causes harmful damage to people. And they did reiterate, like I said, all those are just a fraction of what can happen to you through the exposure to this chronic non-thermal radio frequency radiation.
Kelly?
Yes.
What do you mean by behavioral issues?
Autism.
Depression,
Inability,
anxiety?
yes, inability to concentrate, brain fog, all that kind of stuff. Yes. And to drive this home even more, there is only one other country, and that is Canada, that allows a higher FCC limit on this kind of exposure. All these other countries are that much lower, and you can just see by the graph the huge difference. So our FCC limit, first of all, doesn't protect against the non-chronic thermal, and on top of it, it doesn't even address the health effects. So you need to be really down in this level. So you measure radio frequency radiation through microwatts per meter squared. And anybody after this presentation at the end, I will measure your cell phone so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So as I've learned about this, do we want to go back to the dark ages with regards to technology? Probably not. I haven't gone back to the dark ages, but because this technology is so pervasive, you don't even give it a second thought of whether this is safe or not. It is not safe. Our government is not protecting our health in any way. We have to educate ourselves, and we need to implement special tools to protect ourselves from this radiation. So now, because I took this meter down to where my wireless router is, this only measures 2,000 microwatts per meter squared. You want an environment of less than 10, so it doesn't start affecting you in a negative way. This went off so high it wouldn't even read it anymore. My kids would sit down there right next to the wireless router and doing their homework. I was causing damage to my kids and I didn't even know it. Because what happens is it breaks down your DNA. That makes you susceptible to Parkinson's. So these are people who maybe are not electromagnetic sensitive, you have a good immune system, that kind of stuff. You don't already have cancer, that sort of thing. If you're healthy, it will continue to assault your DNA. It will cause Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and eventually it could morph into cancer. So, you know, these are the little things that we can do, make precautionary efforts and new habits to protect our health, just like maybe we will not do the toxins with the organics or not do the GMOs because it's Frankenstein food and all that kind of stuff. My kids, they get their phone taken away from them if they carry it on their body and it's not on airplane mode. If they're going to pick it up and use it, don't ever put it to your head. When you're getting a call to come in, or when you're getting on the internet, it goes off the charts. So put your phone on airplane mode when you're not using it. If you have to carry it on your body, when you're at night, when you're charging it. Do you guys even know how to use airplane mode? You probably have because you're on airplanes and stuff like that. Put it in a different room where you're sleeping at night while it's charging.
Cordless phones. Do not have a cordless phone.
Cordless phones are terrible, but we're kind of getting off track. So enough of that health. Yes.
Are laptops, do they emit as well?
What?
Did your laptops emit?
Oh yeah. So okay, and this is one thing that I've been learning too. Laptops also have airplane mode. So when you're just using it as a processor to do a presentation or making a report or whatever, put it on airplane mode. Because what happens is when you have the signal on, it's constantly pinging, looking for that signal, and it's pulsing, pulsing, pulsing. The more distance you put between you and that device, the better. And so I want to say, I'm going to go back to all wired stuff. You know, you can use the Ethernet cable. You can still have a laptop and move it conveniently to whatever area that part of the home that you're working. You can use the Ethernet cable and stuff like that. But if you don't and you're just going to stay with wireless, turn it off when you're not using it. Because the difference between wired and wireless is the wired, the EMF are confined to the conductors of the wire. So therefore it doesn't put everything into the pathway of its frequency, which is plants, animals, and people. And it is conclusive that it adversely affects everything in its pathway. If it's going to go through brick, it's going to go through your body.
Do you have a handout that has that chart on it?
No, I don't have one, but you give me your name and I will send you whatever you need to help convey this information. Now, privacy. It is so huge. Missouri Smart Grid Report. Okay, so the Missouri has a Smart Grid Report, and it says that the introduction of two-way communication system, there is great concern about security and data privacy. So they're implementing a program, the smart meter program, but they're still really concerned about the security and data privacy. The data is the critical utility operational data and sensitive customer usage information. This is a violation of our Fourth Amendment. We have the right to be left alone in our homes. The difference between the way an analog collects our energy usage is a monthly billing cycle, so like a 30-day period. It just says what energy you use for that month. What happens now is the aggregate control or the aggregate, what is it? It does the granular data it collects. So now it tells you when you're awake, when you're asleep, if you're on vacation. Again, this is all transferred wirelessly, so it can be hacked by burglars, criminals who have nothing else to do but figure out how they can make money. So they're like, oh, these people are usually gone on spring break. Let's just hack that data information, and they can just go right into your home and do whatever they want. And each appliance has a signature load. So now they can tell what appliances you're actually using and what time of the day you're using them. And just so you know, so if you have a one-way communication meter, which is this, but I already said in our city they're trying to blend them, so they're going to use the full life of the meter. But the fact of the matter is that these meters are upgradable and changeable. Just like you never noticed that you switched out of an analog to a smart meter, you will never know when they change the software. Because they can change that software either remotely from the utility company through the updates, or they can change the personality modules in these as fast as it takes to change a battery out of a flashlight. So one day they may have told you, we only have one-way communication. Well, they just changed the personality module and the data points that they're collecting from your smart meter, and the next day it's a whole different story. The consequences of privacy is with all the data that they are collecting, this is what can happen with your information and how it can be sold and how the utility companies are creating another source of income because this information can go to a third party, can be sold to a third party. So again, like Amy was saying, is that the Department of Motor Vehicles says, oh, we don't do that. So they circumvent that and they send your information to Morphle Trust, but Morphle Trust does it. Same way with the utility company. The utility company are going to tell you they're not going to do anything with your data. But the fact of the matter is utility companies do not have the capacity to hold the unprecedented amount of data they're collecting out of your home. So they have to hire a third party to store this data. What kind of contracts do they have with them? You don't know. Edward Snowden revealed in a Time magazine interview that the technologies that will be added to the smart grid through the information that is gathered from the smart meter is huge, and that smart meter is going to know when you turn your light off at night. We know through the recent NSA and RS scandals that we have to protect our privacy. And if we don't stand up to protect our privacy now, it's going to be gone and it's going to be sold and it's going to create a life of its own that we have no control over. There are many companies getting into this game, and if there isn't a couple of icons up there that doesn't make your blood run cold, I don't know what would. There's Apple and Google. I just got this, I mean, you've probably seen it all the time, these smart homes and stuff like that. I got a consumer, I think it was a Consumer Report magazine. And it talks about home automation. And the bottom line is, from this magazine article about home automation, and they're reviewing all the different products that are smart appliances and everything, don't get them, they're not worth the money. That's what they were saying. Don't get them, it's not worth the money. Now, one of the products that they reviewed, which I thought was really interesting, got a very high rating, was what we might consider a dumb product. It was, they were doing locks and doing the rating on locks, and Medico, I think is how you say it, M-E-D-E-C-O. Medico. The dumbest lock, you put the key in and you turn it with a human hand, is still the safest lock. Because Apple, what they're doing, and they're already starting to sell some of these products in their store, is the iPhone. They're creating software for the iPhone. It's the new platform for all these appliances that can be remotely controlled by your phone. Don't do it. If you love your privacy, you don't want to be hacked. These appliances can they can sense when you're coming in to your home, and the lights will flip on. It can, preheat your oven before you get there. It all sounds wonderful, right? They call it the Jetson home, is what they call it. Jetson style home in this magazine. Now, we were talking about all these smart appliances and everything. This is what's called the Internet of Things. Have you guys ever heard of that term before? Okay, the Internet of Things is where everything is hooked up wirelessly. So, like I said, imagine your phone. You guys can conceptualize this. You have your phone. When you walk into your home, all this stuff happens. The music starts playing. The lights flip on. It's because it's wirelessly sending the programming of your home from your computer to your appliance. Now, mind you, there is software in your smart meter. They have the same kind of software that when these manufacturers put these RFID chips in there, that has software too. And it's going to do everything they want it to do. So it's going to tell when you bought it, what year this appliance was, when you're using it. It's collecting all that information, and it's all communicating all within your home. This is called the Internet of Things. Start Googling it, looking it up. Let it ring a bell when you start hearing it and seeing it. You got one of the Internet of Things in your life. Google just bought what's called Nest. It's called the Smart Thermostat. They also have smoke alarms. So I was actually listening to a television program. It is Honeywell too. Their advertisement is listen, learn, save. So you're in your home. You have this smart thermostat. It listens to what's going on in your home. It listens to it. It records it and learns it and saves it. Google bought Nest. We already know what Google does with all of our information. You get a Nest thermostat in your home that Google, all they know how to do is to make money and collect data. You just pay for somebody to spy on it. GE and Samsung are already debuting smart home appliances. So be a lookout for them. Honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but after learning everything that I've learned, this is an invaluable tool. There's cheaper tools to get. I got a more expensive one because this is unidirectional. You just point it to where you want it to measure. Other ones, it just picks up the radio frequency in the entire environment. Do not buy an appliance if this registers something, because that means it probably has a radio frequency chip in it, and you're not going to have control. This one cost me $500. You can get some for $100 to $200 though.
What did you just say that has a
If this registers something and it beeps, and like I said, when this is all over, if anybody wants me to read the radio frequency off of your home so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like, what it sounds like when your phone is more calm versus when you're trying to surf the internet versus when you're making a phone call, that kind of stuff, it's unbelievable. It's really cool. This is called a radio frequency meter. And then, okay, now, how much, do I need to be done?
Yeah, I need to cut you off, you guys
Okay,
have so
so
much
there's
information.
something really, really important tonight.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay,
Okay.
everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Okay, so we have Trojan meters, and they look like an analog, but they're really not an analog meter. So if you look at your meter and it's like, oh, I can read the sign release because I have an analog meter, I want you to look more closely. These are called Trojan ones. The true analog, this is the one I got put on my home. See how you can see through it? You can see the siding through the bottom of it, it's clear. A Trojan analog has the connectors. It's solid now, you can't see it through it. So it's still collecting your energy usage, profiling you, learning what your habits are. How you know that is on top of the meter. I took a picture of on the top of the meter, you'll see something green. It's your circuit board. It's basically your computer that sends the data. Safety issues. Smart meters are not UL approved. They'll try to make you sound and look like an idiot. I got on the radio show and they says, you know what, she's trying to tell you that they're not UL approved. Industry products do not have to be, are not UL approved. Bold face lie. You go to Underwriters Laboratory, they have a whole link to industry approved products and equipment. You can take a tour around your home and see your cable box is UL approved, your gas meters UL approved, even the very box that your smart meter is in is UL approved. There have been standards set for smart meters, but no manufacturer has ever taken the meter to Underwriters Laboratories to have it reviewed. Now, I did not really talk about this a lot because there are fires happening all over the country. Texas was huge, East Coast was huge, lawsuits. There were some instances where it made your insurance null and void, so it became a huge issue. But I decided not to spend a whole lot of time. But what happened in the last 10 days in our town of City of Columbia, this gentleman's smart meter caught fire. Really? And we've got a picture of it, or we have it here. Yeah, I think.
Oh my.
This is what the smart meter was plugged into. Wow. Right? I was at home on the 19th, about 4 in the afternoon. That's what my smart meter looked like after it torched itself. It arced inside the box. Now, the utility company, Columbia Power and Water, says it's not the smart meter. They said it was, you know, the wiring. Well, the electrician said, who's a reputable electrician, said no, it wasn't the wiring. The wiring was fine. So now you got two people arguing with each other because nobody wants to take responsibility for it. This is how it was set up my house. The power coming down, you had the power coming off the line, and I heard this. And I thought, damn, another squirrel in transformer. I live in an old neighborhood that happens all the time. So I went outside to go see what's going on, and I went, man, what's that smell? So I walk around the side of the house, and this is arcing. It's going psst, psst, psst. And it had gotten so hot that the metal pole that runs up to where it connects to the city, right, had melted here and pulled the entire power off the pole. So I had a live wire in my backyard, and my house was on fire.
Oh. And it would have burned down if it wasn't brick.
I had a brick house, so I'm very fortunate. But, yeah, so that's,
So there you have it, people.
it does happen.
So then your insurance company was investigated, found a 9-year-old listed meter.
So, dang
Did
it.
you want to say something about your
I did want to say something, but I lost my power.
What kind of wireless
Okay, can I just say 2 more things? Sorry. Because there's something I wanted. Okay, so I do have a sign-up sheet. There's many ways that we can stay connected. I'm the only activist group here in Missouri. We have people all over the world working on this issue. We are making great headway. My Facebook fan page is Take Back Your Power Como. You can like that fan page. I usually update it with information once a week or so. I also have a sign-up sheet back there. There is a petition that I'm collecting signatures on, that if you want to go ahead and add your name to it, that would be wonderful. It just basically says we deserve a choice, and we deserve the choice to protect our homes.
Can you sign online, or do you need a physical signature?
This, yeah, I'm not that advanced, I wish I was. Say that, please. Take Back Your Power Como, C-O-M-O. So, anyway, I guess I need to be done. So, there was one more quote. I know, I had mentioned it, that I can only paraphrase it. I was hoping to say it verbatim, the Edward Snowden interview. And basically, one of the quotes was talking about, Brian Williams asked him the question, are you a patriot? And he said, patriot is a word that's being thrown around a lot. And he goes, being a patriot isn't necessarily meaning upholding your government. Sometimes you have to protect and uphold the freedoms of your countrymen, the Constitution, and your country. And this is where we're at. Are you a patriot? And what I decided, if I wasn't willing to protect the very walls of my home from a radio transmitter surveillance device, then when was I gonna jump in the game and get over all my fears and get over all my creature comforts to make a difference? So I may not be the best at what I'm doing, but I'm hopefully educating yourself, and if anybody of you guys wanna take the baton and do a better job than me, you're welcome. Have at it. Thank you.